You're listening to the Passport Podcast, brought to you by the Travel Technology Association. Travel Tech is a nonprofit that promotes and protects the travel tech industry, supporting our members, both large and small. On each episode of the Passport Podcast, we sit down with an industry leader to dive deep into the intersection of travel, technology, and public policy, helping our listeners understand how larger debates in Washington, D.C., and state houses across the country will impact the travel tech industry. Welcome back to the Passport Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Chadwick, President and CEO of the Travel Technology Association. Each episode, I sit down with an industry leader to go beyond headlines, provide insights on the top stories featured in Travel Tech's Passport newsletter, and examine the policy debates inside and outside the Beltway impacting the travel technology industry. On today's episode, I'm joined by Matt Zito, Managing Partner at TSI. It's great to have you on the podcast, Matt.
Thanks for having me, Laura.
So Travel Tech, we've had the privilege of working closely with you, Matt, over the last year as a member of our Innovation Advisory Council and a key partner on our growing startup membership program. Matt is a seasoned M&A broker, Travel Tech CEO coach, startup advisor, and is known as the super connector in the travel industry. Before we jump into things, Matt, I was hoping you could tell us a little bit about you and your background. How did you come to be on this Passport with us today? Start from the beginning.
Yeah, sure thing. So I'm an entrepreneur, Laura, so I talk a lot. So feel free to cut me off if I talk too much.
No, you're fine.
I'll just tell my story in sort of like three sections, right? So the first part is I got my start in the travel industry actually in college. I was busing college students down from George Mason University to the bars in M Street in Washington, D.C. And we were trying to solve a problem of drinking and driving. There was a Mad Mothers Against picketing on college campus and realized that students were going to stop drinking. So, as an entrepreneur, how do I solve the problem? So I just started busing college students. That got into busing college students to the ski resorts of Vermont and Canada on the East Coast and during winter break and spring break. And that's sort of how we started our real sort of first, I guess, travel company. We were sort of like a tour operator. My wife was my partner with me, Nicole Zito. We met in college. And so we built actually the company out of our dorm room. So that's sort of that's the first section of what we did. From there, we built we had a lodging property. We sold both of those in 2007, 2009. So we actually had successful exits. So we actually built and sold. And then from there, we got into investing. We launched a company called Travel Startups Incubator. We raised capital like a lot of travel startups do, but to invest in travel startups, we invested in 22 travel startups from around 2013 to 2018. And then post that, right around the COVID 2020, I started getting M&A. We merged two of our companies that we had investments in. We sold two of the companies we had investments in. And some founders started coming to me and asking me if I'd help them sell. And that's what I did. And so that's mainly what I do today is I'm an M&A broker, buying and selling travel companies. But I also stay close to the industry and work with travel startups. One of the ways I do that is through a 4-week acceleration program that we developed and we commercialized from our experience of investing in startups. And so very excited to have the Travel Tech Association provide that as a service to the startup members. And it's probably one of the things, I'm most proud of that I've actually executed and built. So it's like our life knowledge base and experience packaged in to teach entrepreneurs how to succeed.
Yeah, Matt, your program, the TSI Accelerator, as you said, is a core benefit of being a Travel Tech startup member. And we are so grateful for that. Listeners can find out about our startup program at traveltech.org/start-up, where we have a variety of other benefits. But this one that you have provided to us to help the startup community grow, allow the travel tech startup community to grow, is simply phenomenal. All of our startup members who have taken your course have just sung its praises. Some are even asking, what comes next, Matt? What else can you teach us? And so I'm so appreciative. And I love that you are sharing this with the industry. I think the work that you do now to help our industry grow, to innovate, is fantastic. We'd be lost without you. So thanks, Matt.
Thank you for that. I'm enjoying it. I really do enjoy it. And it keeps me, it keeps me close to the startups. And
I'm excited about where we're going to take this. We're bringing in new startup members every day, be part of our program to receive the training through your accelerator and our other benefits, and we're going to continue to build on those benefits for the startups, including holding our event again here in Washington D.C. in May, our startup summit, and a startup pitch competition here on the East Coast as well. We really focus in on the bootstrappers, the pre-seed and the seed level innovators. And I wondered if, from where you sit, the biggest piece of advice outside of joining Travel Tech and taking your accelerator course, what is it, right now where we are, given where, the travel industry is, state of the economy, levels of investment, what's the one big piece of advice that you have for travel tech startups right now?
Yeah, I think the number one thing is, especially, it just doesn't have to do with, I think travel tech can be any really travel startup or any startup, is that you really you either have to sell a product that, people want, it's in demand, you make it better than everybody else. There's some type of components there that just people want to buy it. And then there's the sort of the problem solution. So you find a problem in the industry, have a solution for it. And then on that side is that solution that actually people want to pay for, right? So I think there's a lot of, like, in the B2B travel tech space, there's a lot of founders that identify a problem, they have a solution, it's really good, it works, but it's just not important enough to the customer, right? And they just don't really want to pay it at the end. It doesn't transfer over for whatever reason. So I think those are like sort of the two things I try to, high level, try to tell travel startup founders. And in the end, it's like, how do you know if, you can get all the feedback you want on how great something is, but until someone's actually willing to pay for it, and then how much are they going to pay for it, do you know if you actually have something?
Yeah, that's the ultimate test. Indeed.
That's the test.
Yeah. Well, with that, perhaps we should switch over to the format of Passport, how we approach these podcasts. We, as you know, we put out a weekly newsletter, our Passport newsletter, that shares news about what travel tech is up to support our industry, not only, with policymakers, but to support the startups and beyond. And then we go into an e-news digest that is a, compilation of the top news stories at the intersection of travel, technology, and public policy. And where this intersects with you, of course, is efforts to make sure that travel tech startups have the funding that they need. Our first article that we're going to turn to, though, concerns venture capital. It's an interview with someone that we both know, who we both work with on Travel Tech's Innovation Advisory Council. And I know that you and Kara Whitehill have had a long relationship outside of Travel Tech's efforts. But the story that we're going to start off with is from Skift back in May. The title is The Venture Capital View on Generative AI in Travel. So in this article, the folks at Skift ask Kara what she's seeing with generative AI and its impact on the travel industry. So Matt, as someone who's been working with travel tech startups for years and have seen how these companies are at the forefront of innovation, I'm curious about what your thoughts are on the issue. What kind of Gen AI applications are you seeing that excite you the most, or potentially raise some, yellow or red flags?
Yeah, I would say to be honest with you, I'm not the super fan of Gen AI. I think ultimately it's just going to be a commodity, and especially on the front side. So I look at things sort of like, is it a front side application, or is it what I call backside, more like B2B application? And I just think there's a lot of competition. In fact, on the front side, I sold a company last year in this space. It was an AI trip planning company, and really smart engineers, two founders, two engineers, built a really great application, generating revenue. Got a lot of interest in it from buyers, but then when it came to actually pay, there was very few. So it actually sort of shocked me in some way. Even though that they were early, they had built really great tech and they had revenue, and I thought for sure that at the forefront, everyone was talking about that this would be something. So I actually have a use case of seeing it, firsthand. So I'm more interested in, I think, in the B2B applications of AI. And I think they're going to be more transformational. I think they actually are going to change the industry for the better. And these are mainly going to be like B2B companies that have built some type of application that, solves serious problems out there or makes things easier. I think one of the things on the front side of, I guess it's not necessarily Gen AI, but on the front side is I've come across a couple companies on the front side able to book any type of travel reseller, book it in real time, not in a human being, but a bot. And then it's actually a B2B company, and they're actually booking the transaction on behalf of another travel reseller.
Mm-hmm.
So this is actually happening right now. People, are talking about how AI is going to automate a lot of things and what's the impact going to be in travel. So that's sort of like a front end technology. It's a back end technology, but they're actually doing the booking on the front side, and they're doing it, in a B2C environment. So I think there's a lot that's going to come from that, I think.
Yeah, we know the travel industry is highly fragmented. Technology is a way to solve this fragmentation. What efforts of, obviously we're seeing AI adoption within the airline segment, right? Within the hotel segment, and so forth, the OTA segment and the like. Have you seen anything that perked your interest in sort of solving the fractured issue? AI would be able to connect the different fragmented parts of our industry?
Yeah, so like not to get technically difficult with people watching here, but there's an application called an API. It's an application programming interface. It stands for. It's just software code, right?
Sure.
Just dumb it down. Software code that connects two databases,
And they talk.
and it moves. Yeah, and they talk and they move information back and forth, right? So it's technical, but it's I think pretty easy to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And so with the technology, when the two software models try to talk to one another, a lot of times it breaks. Like something happens, and I hear this all the time from founders, like, well, I don't want to say who it is, like one of the GDS's API is not working today or broke or something like that. So now there's a company that I've seen, and they have AI bots that just sit there and wait till it breaks,
Okay.
and then they fix it
Oh.
in real time. So something that could take days could now take like 15 seconds.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is
Yeah,
quite innovative.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. That's very innovative. And then on top of that, they have bots that build bots, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, if they can't figure it out, then the bot will try to figure out what it is, recode it, and then pass it on to the bot that's supposed to fix it, and we'll fix it.
Maintaining uptime.
Maintaining uptime,
Yeah.
connectivity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, yeah, that is really exciting. I'm thinking of the use case between, you're a passenger on an airline, you're delayed, you're getting in late, or you no longer need that hotel room for that night. As it currently stands right now, maybe you're on the ground and you're scrambling to tell the hotel I'm not going to be there tonight, or trying to reschedule your rental car or what have you, that relies on the individual. Are you seeing anything in that space yet?
Yeah, in the industry, we call it the connected journey.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of people that talk about it, and it'd be great if we had a connected journey where something happened, like on the airline, then the hotel could be notified, or the car rental could be notified, and everything. And there's been some companies that have tried to actually execute on that, but I think the core problem with that is the sharing of the data.
Yeah.
And how do you get beyond that? And that's sort of where the roadblock sits, I think, as of today. The connected traveler isn't a technical issue. It's a human issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's a human issue of being able to, I guess, trust and contractualize and commercialize the sharing of data.
Yeah.
And then also that brings in a lot of privacy issues as well
Indeed.
with actual travelers.
Indeed.
So
Well, innovators, note this is this space to continue to be solved for.
yeah,
Um,
it's a great problem to solve for.
yeah, let's get on that. Let's turn to our next article. This one is from FocusWire, again back in May. The title is "What Investors Get Wrong About Travel Tech Startups." Of course, Matt, I'm interested to know in the
And all of what you
article.
get wrong.
Yeah, it goes into like, what do the investors get wrong? Is it they haven't done the good due diligence and the like? But I wondered from the, given your experience working directly with travel tech startups, what did travel tech startups want investors to know?
Yeah. So this is there'll be I'm not going to put on my investor hat right now. I'm just going to talk about from what the startup should know about investors. I think there's a couple of things, two things. One is that startups just assume that I think a lot of times that travel investors understand the travel industry as a whole. Like you mentioned, it's very fragmented, it's complicated. There's there's leisure travel, there's business travel, or there's B2C or B2B, selling direct to consumers or selling direct to corporations or different things. And especially in the pre-seed to seed stage, when you're pitching investors, a lot of those investors are not what we call travel tech investors, right? There's a very small amount of them that actually in the actual world that understand, have the full scope of things, right? So one of the things you need to do is, as a travel startup investor, you need to create two pitch decks. So we talk about this a little bit in the acceleration program. And two pitch decks. There's one is that your grandmother can understand,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is for real.
Yeah.
The one a travel tech investor like Gilead can understand.
And you're
And
saying Gilead Bernstein, right?
yeah, Gillian Bernstein, yeah, who participates in the Travel Tech Association's webinars
Yeah.
and looking for
And we
investors,
have
looking to
one
make investments.
upcoming
We have one
in
coming up October
less
15th.
than 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, coming up October 15th. So, and you literally have to literally just find someone that doesn't know anything about travel and pitch them and get it to where they think, get it to a point where they think they actually understand it, because that would be number one. That's the number one thing. And it's okay to just dumb stuff down, because it's just really, you should be at a high level explain what you're doing, even though if it's technical in nature. You just really need to show what the proposition, the value props, and the solution you're providing. And then I would say the other thing is that travel startups should let investors know about is that it's a long haul. I don't think it's necessarily our industry, but it takes really like 10 years. It takes that long. If you succeed, it takes that long for you to become something. Maybe 7, maybe if you're lucky, maybe 7, but it's really that long. If you look at the majority successful travel startups, and from when they started to when people could say like, okay, they're not going to go away anymore. Like they're here to stay. That's like a 7 to 10 year time period, closer to 10 years, really realistic. Investors need to understand that going into the investing with you. Like and startups don't articulate that.
Yeah, and that's one of the points that this article makes is patience, right? It's the investors who are impatient, right? They're
Yeah,
looking for, like, give us the bottom
yeah,
line. When is our investment going to pay off? But so that's really interesting to hear that the startups themselves, right, are saying you need to think about this in the long term. I liken that, I have a policy background, having worked for Congress, been a federal lobbyist, and the like. People are always like, well, we should pass a law. We should fix that. Pass a law. And well, Congresses are 2 years in length, one half and the second half. We're in the first half of this Congress, and the next year will be the second half of this Congress. But it actually takes, if you want to pass law, it takes about 10 years to continue to hit the pavement. The members of
yeah,
Congress change, the issue changes, like there are developments. I always like to see industry stepping in to fix the issues, letting the market fix the issue, and not letting policymakers, right? Policymakers should be used when there is an intractable issue, but I think the market and innovation can solve a lot of the problems. So I
yeah.
hear you on the patience fronts. To get to that profitable space, it needs time. It doesn't happen like it does in movies, right? It's just like, get the money, bingo bango, here we go, everything is great. There sometimes that happens, but the norm is by far that's not the case, right?
Yeah, and a lot of it is because specifically if there's like a new technology that the travel startup is utilizing for its core product, its foundational product, and because it takes, if you look back, I did a post on LinkedIn and I've written about this a lot, and if you look back, I don't know, 25, 30 years, go backwards, you'll see the technologies have come into the travel industry, and then you can see where they enter, and then it's usually like a 10-year period before people even start talking about using it. I use the word, I call it adoption, right? So it comes in, nobody uses it, and then it takes literally 10 years before you've got like 5 to maybe 10, 15% utilizing it, and then it's a 15 to 20 year where it starts to go majority adoption. So like this whole AI, if you look at the AI history, I mean it's a really long time period.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's past 20 years. It's like close to 50 years
Mm-hmm.
because it was when it was invented. Invested in an AI travel chatbot back in 2016, right? It was really early. We were one of the first investors in it, and it just our the founders just couldn't. They actually got bored. They actually got bored because they got bored because there wasn't enough people that were interested
Not
in it.
yet. Yeah.
And then they pivoted and went into entertainment, and they've done well with what they've done. But I always, they always say, well, Matt, maybe we should have listened to you and just stayed in longer because we would probably be worth $100 million today. So because we were one of the first ones. That's just how it works. And investors need to, I think, the travel tech, like Gilead, we mentioned the travel tech investors, they understand this. Kara they understand this. This is how it works. That it's a long haul.
It's a long haul. While we're giving advice to investors and startups and the like, one topic that we've been discussing amongst our Innovation Advisory Council here at Travel Tech, in which you and Kara and others sit on. Talk to me about partnering with corporate entities, right? There's a lot of learning that needs to be shared on that angle. Obviously, you could go in and get investments, right? You can fund your organization. I mean, eventually you're going to have to sell to someone, right? Provide your tool to somebody. But when you get to that front, like what are the things that startups should be thinking about when they're, dreaming of that partnership with a corporate entity?
One of the things that we teach and talk about is that you've got to really be ready to go. You don't necessarily have to be commercial, but you better be pretty close to having a commercialized product. The best way to step in with a corporate is to do a beta test, or something we call it piloting.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of corporates will pilot. They'll do that. And a lot of times on a pilot, you might like have a suite of products, or you might have one product with 5 features, but they only want like one of the features of your product. It's a great way to find out really if, in the end, someone's willing to pay for it, right? That's really, I think, at the pilot is all about. And if you're ready to commercial, then you're in an actual better position, because if the pilot succeeds and they like it, you can then roll into a commercial agreement with the corporate. It is very difficult to, work with corporates. It takes a long time. There's a long sales cycle. But, if you get the attention of one and you create something of value, it can be really great for you. There's been some companies in the past that they've actually sold, they've exited before they actually even commercialized. And that's through exiting through the actual company that you're doing your pilot with. So the more you can be ready, the better. And then don't be afraid to take a feature out of the core product and just provide them that. Like, just step into it and do a deal and try to create value.
Yeah. And the corporates have a real point of view about working with startups too, and sort of not, and I've learned this from our Innovation Advisory Council, that corporates, if they're going to spend the time to work with you, right, the last thing they want is for that innovator, like, work with them, beta test that product that you're mentioning, and then take that knowledge and go sell it, to take all that knowledge and then, give it to a competitor, right?
Yeah. There's like the 2 biggest fears for corporates on doing this is, one, you're going to run out of money and they're going to spend all this time and they're going to have nothing. And then 2 is you're going to sell, right? But that's just part of the game. It's part of the risk. I actually have a use case that's sort of interesting I can share. So I'm raising capital for a company, actually currently raising $4 million. And it's a strategic who is really interested in the company. It's actually a publicly traded strategic as well. And they were looking at doing the whole 4 million. And then they came back to me and said they just can't risk it. They just can't risk doing the investment and being a publicly traded company. And so it sort of petered out. And so I got with the founder and I said to him, he asked me what I thought I could do. And I was like, why don't we work on trying to do a commercial partnership with them? Let's have them pay X million for that. And then let's give them X million in a warrant. And a warrant is sort of like not really an option, but it's a future ability to own shares in the company at X price.
Mm-hmm.
And so he thought that was a great idea. and so we're going to now pitch that. So, and I think we have a shot at it, because what we did is we just effectively reduced all their risk, right? So they have a commercial, they want the product. Okay, so here it is, pay for it. We'll help, the money that you pay, we're going to help build it out to how you want to do it. And then we're going to give you the option here in a certain amount of time to actually make an investment in us.
Yeah, so it's like a win-win, right? For
Yeah,
current
win-win,
and future, right?
current and future. Yeah.
Control that risk.
Yeah. And so startups need to be really like creative. And when they get a no, find out what is the no, like why, and then try to solve a problem for the why.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't always work, but
Right. It's it's an iterative process. Now, all of this great advice, again, as we were talking at the top, you've put into your accelerator program that, again, Travel Tech startup members get for free, and then you work one-on-one with Travel Tech startups founders, right, advising them, and as part of being part of our membership, they get a discount on your counseling, your
yes,
advising of them too. So I
yes.
think that's a wonderful benefit. And I would, if I was a travel tech startup, right away, I'd want to talk to you, Matt. The depth of experience and your passion about giving it back to the industry too. Let's turn to this last article then. This one was concerning a large piece of legislation. Perhaps everybody in the country has heard about it. It's President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill that passed Congress back in July. So when Travel Tech launched its startup membership program, we're not only supporting startups to get connected to other members of the startup community, the travel tech startup community, something that we've heard is much needed. People want to connect with others who are facing the same challenges that startups want to get in front of investors. And so, as we were talking about, in less than 2 weeks, we're going to have our second online travel tech startup investor connect, in which several of our travel tech startup members will be able to pitch these investors who join the call. Anyone can attend this webinar that we're having. Go to traveltech.org/news to see the information and get our registration link to that. But another thing that we do for travel tech startups is to advocate for public policy that supports the travel tech startup community. And we've identified 3 different areas that will help our startup members and the entire ecosystem, frankly, grow. We've identified access to capital, obviously more access to capital, making sure that our tax code is supporting travel tech startup and innovation. And then lastly, making sure that travel tech innovators in the AI space, most especially, are able to compete with the major frontier models that are out there. When it comes to the One Big Beautiful Bill, Travel Tech, we were able to successfully advocate for the inclusion of pro-growth tax relief and provisions that make the full expensing of domestic research and development permanent. It also restores 100% bonus depreciation for those who are investing in tangible servers and the like, hard property. It preserves the 20% qualified business income deduction for pass-through businesses. And it also modernizes the qualified small business stock rules. Taken together, the thinking is, and it's not just for travel tech startups, but for all startups here in the United States. And I think that's where the Trump administration is just doing a great job on promoting technology and promoting startups as well. And so, Matt, I wanted to, ask you, when it comes to access to capital and having good tax provisions and being able to bring on investors and staff with promises of payouts that will be tax free in the future. That's what the qualified small business stock rules do. I wondered if you think those sorts of policies will help a travel tech startup, or access to capital, good tax, and ability to get investors and recruit staff. Do you think that these provisions taken together will help the travel tech startup community?
Yeah, I think a couple of them, that for the investor side, that they can get the tax-free investment. I think they have to hold it for a certain amount of years. I'm not sure how many years it is, but I think that's really important. I think also that travel startups don't utilize that. Like I don't ever see that in decks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it would behoove them to, actually one, learn about it on behalf, like how does it benefit the investor, right? So it needs to be part of their sales pitch to U.S. investors that they're not going to pay a tax on it if they hold it for X amount of years. That could be like a pretty big deal for an investor to make a decision. And so it definitely, I think that needs to be sort of hammered away. And I don't see it enough from travel startups.
Yeah. I do want to note on that particular policy, we advocated that it would be expanded to S Corps, but it was not. It is simply, it's limited right now to just C Corps. And so
Right.
I don't know how many C Corp travel tech startups you're seeing right now. We will continue to advocate that it is expanded to S Corps.
Most of the companies that are going to raise are in the C Corp. Some that are going to just do angel investor, and they're going to be an LLC or S Corp.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but most of the ones that most of the ones that are going to go through the whole fundraising thing are already C Corp.
Okay.
So
that's great to hear.
And yeah, I mean, I think it should, I don't know why, but it should be spread across. What does it matter what entity you have, really, in the end of the day? Right. So I think if you push on that, that would be good.
Yeah, no, yeah, indefinitely. It will take time to continue, now that this big tax bill has been pushed through. I mean, there is some talk about doing a second one, and we will certainly be walking the halls of Congress talking about that, asking startups beyond those who are involved with us, but asking startups to weigh in with their members of Congress about why this is important. We have a tool on our website. It's at traveltech.org/advocate that provides a tool for startups and any member of the travel tech industry, frankly, to come in and send a letter to their member of Congress about preferred policy positions that will help their businesses and our entire industry. And so we put out what are known as action alerts, advising members of the industry to come to our website and send. And we do the hard stuff. We write the briefing memo for the travel tech company, and then we also pre-write the letter that you can send to your member of Congress. You can add your own language to it, but we make it easy. So we will certainly be pushing this message and others on public policies that can support not only the startup community, but everyone in the travel tech sector. So yeah. I'm sorry, I just wanted to give that little plug for them.
Yeah, and I've used your letters before to send to my senators and congressmen, so thank you for that. Awesome. Utilize that. And I would also just say on a side note, like that in general at a higher level, that the U.S. is still the best place to raise capital. If you're a travel startup, it's the number one place. More U.S. travel startups get funded in America than anywhere else. Europe is second, but they're still pretty far behind where we are. Even though it is harder in the environment right now to raise capital, it's still the best place. America is still the best place to raise capital, by far.
And that's great. And now, we have, these new policies from the One Big Beautiful Bill that will make it even more attractive, right?
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
So that's great. Well, Matt, we've had a long conversation here. As always, such a pleasure to connect with you. Thank you for coming on to the Passport Podcast, to share your insights about the travel tech industry, about the travel tech startup community. Again, as always, thank you for being part of our startup membership program. Again, I encourage listeners here, in the future, now or in the future, to come check us out. It's traveltech.org/start-up, where you can learn about our program. That's for the founders as well as the big corporate partners who perhaps are looking for travel tech startups to, as we were talking about earlier, support B2B business issues or to partner for B2C business issues as well. So thanks again, Matt, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, Laura, for having me on the podcast and enjoying our partnership we have.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Want to stay up to date every week on current and emerging policy issues facing the travel tech industry? Be sure to sign up for Travel Tech's free Passport newsletter at traveltech.org/subscribe. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.